What is up, everybody? We are pushing back. This is Black Out the System. We are done with this administration effing us all over all the time. That is what is happening. Oh, yeah. It is so great being here with everybody, talking, blacking out the system with all of us together, because that's what we have to do. We've got to black out the system. The establishment, the 1%, the corporate politicians, they have created this economic rot in our country that we have to push back against. And the only way that left for us to push back is actually to put together our consumer and economic power and say, we are getting on the same page and we are pushing back. Because there are so many of us that are working 40 hours a week, still having to check our bank account before we go to the grocery store. Because there's 80% of people can't afford a couple $1,000 emergency. What's up, Patrick? And by the way, y'all, my name is Corey. I am with Black Out the System, just helping take some of the weight off of Isaiah here, of being here every day, of spreading this message. And that's where the next phase is all of us spreading this message, getting people on the same page, speaking out in the same way, using the same language, right? They're not the billionaires, they're the hoarders. And it's not left versus right, it's up versus down. And no, we're not Republicans or Democrats, we're just Americans. Because they've used language to divide us for so long. I don't know what you're asking. There you go, Alaska. That's what it's all about, because it's literally us recognizing the truth that greed is the disease, that everything else is just a symptom. Reorganizing our life around that ideal and recruiting others to do the same. Well, Evan, I think, pushing back against the entrenched powers is the goal. But with us being such a diverse country, I like to put it like this. If you laid us over top of Europe, we would go from the UK down to like the tip of Africa. Think of all the countries and all the different cultures that encapsulates. USA is that big. That's awesome, Ghostly. We have tons of people sending it here. And I don't know about that, Alaskan. We have a lot of people. And it's not only the amount of people, it's what the people are doing, right? We're following the actual path to success. We are inciting a culture shift, and that does not happen overnight. It takes people first coming together. It's like basically we have a plan, and we're well ahead of that plan. I think that's a good way to put it. Because the first thing to do, what the blackout is all about, and even I think Patrick asked, the blackout works. We understand that a 5-day blackout is not going to take down the entrenched financial system in this country and around the world. What it will do, though, is it gives people a signal flare. It says, I'm ready to do this. Are you? Because this isn't the only time we're pushing back. And what it is we're doing something very difficult. But it's really hard and difficult if you do something alone. And it's even more hard and difficult if you're doing it alone and you don't know the solution. You don't know the path forward. And that's where we've laid out that path forward, because this is not the first time in history that the bosses have gotten greedy. And all we need to do is pull out the playbook again and follow the exact same steps that have been laid out by previous generations that had to fight back against this same thing. So the messaging is going to be the most important part of this. They are not the billionaires. They are the hoarders. It's not left versus right. It is up versus down. These things are so important because if one of us says it, we feel crazy because we think we're the only ones. But if everyone says it, it becomes common sense. People aren't confused about if there's a problem in our country right now. We're just looking around, and prior to all this, we didn't know what to do. Well, that's why we built the civic force. What's up, Holly? Because most of us feel like something is wrong, but we stay silent. We stay silent because we're unsure, because we don't know. Because if we think that we're alone, we never go and fix the issue. It's like, I know that whenever I'm tackling a tough problem, it's so much easier when I've got some friends behind me, when you have a community behind you. We are giving people a way to name the pain that they have been carrying for years. Do you know how many people come into this and are just like, yes, are we finally doing this? I've been saying this for so long. I've had this idea. But it's those shared phrases, those shared language that makes them feel like they're a part of something. And what it really does is it gives you power. That's what these stickers do. These free stickers. When other people see them, they will say, oh, this is awesome. Somebody else is pushing back against this too. I would like to do that as well. So your act of courage will give other people the ability, the power to move forward. So that's the number one thing. Shared language breaks that isolation. We shall overcome. Fight for 15. Black Lives Matter. Shoot, even let's go, Brandon, right? These are all shared phrases and shared languages that makes the members feel like they are part of the group and part of something bigger. And that is so important because it's really going to be small steps that lead us to victory. And the proof of those small steps is what makes people feel like they're a part of something. That's why we've got to take the pictures. That's why we've got to send in the videos. That's where we've got to recruit other content creators. Because if we are not the only channel blasting out this message, if we can get 100, 500 other people spreading this to their followers every single month, that's how it becomes universal. That's how it becomes common. 100% Queen Marge, that is what we are doing next. So Overview of the plan. We've got No Kings blackout October 18th. We have blackout the system happening again. Black Friday through Cyber Monday, the 28th, November 28th through December 2nd. But we have to understand that these full-on economic blackouts, the boycotts, they are just the parties in between the work. That's what it really is. That's where we all get together, where we all, are able to lick our battle wounds and build some community. But the real time that we're going to actually change this culture is all of us together just like this. It's the only way. Because it's not going to be through some big act that we change the culture. It's going to be how we live every day. Because they pepper us with lies throughout our lives. What's up, Sammy? And we needed to combat those lies with the truth. And once people see that truth, just like you saw that truth, they will have that spark of emotional clarity. They will go up and say, I need to do this too. Finally, a way to push back. Well, it's not about any kind of like better or anything, Patrick. We completed our goal, which was to create enough momentum to build a community. We've absolutely done that. We've got a very large community. We've built momentum. We had Neil frickin' Young write us into a song. We're sending Rosie O'Donnell is having, I can't remember who she had that conversation with in the interview, but she's spreading the word. And so we've already done what we need to do, which was simply to build a community of people that are ready. With Acosta, a community of people that are ready to recognize that greed is the disease. Everything else is just a symptom. Yeah, there's a lot of different fires we need to fight in our country, but let's focus on the greedy assholes who have the flamethrowers first. That's what this is about. So we are pushing back against there. Just spreading the word, Ashley, because our whole goal is once this domino falls, everybody else will. I mean, I think your society is what we're pushing for. And it's really just about spreading the words. Well, really, Ashley, if you're able to do any graphic design, video editing, any help on the back end, stuff like that, we always need help and volunteers. So, but back to proof and the momentum. We are wired. We are wired for social proof. Every time we see it, it makes us want to do it more. I mean, I just learned about, I'm not even gonna remember if I know, Labubus or something like that. And also we all had the Beanie Babies growing up. We all had what's up and all the shared language that we got from corporations. I mean, think about that. If shared language and putting information in public didn't work, then why is it that we're all still quoting commercials from 20 and 30 years ago? It's because it makes you feel like a part of a group. It's because we're wired for social proof. It's because every time the next person hears you say it, it turns that whisper into a roar. We are making this real. We are making this visible. We are making this undeniable. There are already over 60,000 stickers out across the country. When I put the pin on, we literally cannot find a map tool that allows us to see all the pins. Once we zoom out, it has these giant bubbles over areas. But if you zoom in, it was literally one of the most motivating things that I had seen yet. We had taken all the cities, all like 9,000 cities that we have, and put them into a map making tool. And we're just covering the country. Absolutely covering the country. But I can't figure out how to show anybody this because you have to zoom in order to see all the dots. Because when you zoom out, it has this giant, the combined. So, and this proof of momentum has worked before. The Montgomery bus boycotts would not have been so well known if they didn't take so many dang pictures. That was what they told everyone. Bring your camera, document this, take a picture, because it's not just about us pushing back in Montgomery. It's about showing people across the nation what they can do. We had somebody ask last night, well, I make art, I garden. How can I spread the word? Just take pictures of what you're doing. Show others, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm making this piece of art. This is why I'm doing it. I'm growing this garden. This is why I'm giving away the food. When you see those school walkouts and things like that, when you post the proof, it inspires others to do the same. And then it's not like we're asking for too much. We're saying put up a free sticker. Wear black to work on Fridays. Boycott every single Friday. Come join us for Blackout Fridays, where we come together in community. All of those things are acts of resistance. All of those things are ways to push back. Yeah, you're right. I am totally not on it right now, but I've got a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, so I am don't have too much time for laundry. Go to the link in the bio, and you can sign up for free stickers. It'll be the very top on the website. It'll be this big red button that says join the team, get your free stickers, and you'll be able to get those stickers there, Queen Margie. So the stickers, great point, because it's small synchronized steps. It's stacked impact. 1,000 people doing one thing beats one person doing 1,000 things. That's what stacked impact is. That's what all of us giving it some rather than some of us giving it our all. It's not just action that creates power. It's coordinated action done together, because they don't fear people who are angry. They don't fear people who are organized. You need to be angry, organized, and consistent. That's the most important part. If we all do it once a week, that's all it takes. When I'm in Maryland and I see how many are up in LA and Oregon and Texas and Minnesota, I'm like, oh, shoot, that's pretty damn cool. Let's make Maryland let's poster Maryland as many as we can. We are running low on the sticker supply, Marge, so just have her sign up, or if you want to put in her information as well. So we saw this happen like 12, 13 years ago. Twitter sparked an uprising in so many countries. And it was anybody doing anything spectacular. I mean, we just saw it in Nepal, right? It was just people that were fed up, that came together at the right time, that had messaging that made people feel included. It had small acts that everyone could do to become a part of it. And then they escalated as one. They took small steps together. They practiced before they got to the championship game. We have to learn how to walk before we can run. Not only for our own selves, but because the majority of people have been told to be terrified of speaking out. That speaking out and pushing back is like a body of water. And that if we speak out or push back, oh, it's a body of water, and they don't know how to swim. And they've been told to be afraid of that body of water their entire lives. So if we just go right there and try to jump right into the deep end, what's going to happen to the majority of people? They are going to freak out, right? They're going to be like, whoa. No, I don't think so, God's daughter. That certainly was not something I ever thought too strongly about. But because it's all about balance, right? Those 24-hour lives are difficult for a lot of people. So I'll be here for about an hour like I am most days, and we'll go from there. So, and then really the main reason that we know that we're going to win is beyond the consistency, beyond the community. It's because we're not just talking about what is wrong. We are also building what is right. Right now, this system doesn't offer us any security. And without security, how are we supposed to push back? Because the moment our security is waning, we need to go be a part of the system again in order to get what tiny little bit of security it allows us to barely scrape by with. So we need to make sure that we're building the systems that we need, that we have food security, that we have local food systems, that we are able to sustain and support ourselves, because the only way that we'll be able to win is sustained pushback. The only way we'll be able to have sustained pushback is to build the systems that we need for sustenance: food, housing, healthcare. And that's what we're doing. It's not just a single movement. This is 1,000 movements of people coming together to realize that building a community is what we need. Because greed is the disease, and the opposite of greed is community. So that's what we're building. We have to change the culture. We have to change the narrative. And that's where it's like just this multi-track thing where people call for, let's do a full-on boycott right now. Okay, well, we haven't built the systems, and we haven't put truth in public enough. We haven't changed the narrative enough to have enough people on our side to be able to have so many people that we can build the systems, that we can replace the system. The administration is simply a symptom of the disease. Even if we get rid of the administration, 90% of workers are still going to not be able to, or 80% of people still won't be able to afford an emergency. Just because this administration leaves doesn't mean that the 208 million people that have barely any savings in the bank account will have any security. Well, that's totally fine, because we've thought through this. We've seen what's happened in history before. And the thing that brings people together is economic woes, economic rot. You allow people to see that they are being exploited by the system. And once they're able to see that they are being exploited, it's not a long jump to seeing that other people are being exploited. And what you have to remember too is that the only people we can really have these conversations with are those that are emotionally ready, that are emotionally mature enough to have that conversation. So, and that's why we're doing lots of different things there. But it is very clear that this administration is just a symptom, because, well, that's where we're not arrogant enough to say that we know what all the answers are, but we sure do know that we are asking the right questions, and we are going to get enough Americans on our side. And it's about building a wave, because we do know what we want. But if you lead with ideology over practicality, you're going to turn off the majority of people before you've even had a chance to have a conversation with them. And that's what we're trying to do, is we are just trying to connect with as many humans as we can face to face. Because you can't come right on in and say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You have to have a conversation with them first. Well, that's where this is not talk without action. We are not just talking about what's wrong. We are building what is right. What we really need is long-term sustenance, because the only thing that's going to win is long-term pushback, a long-term strike. But we can't have a long-term strike unless we build the systems that we need to support us. So we are pushing back. We are gathering people under this umbrella. We are coordinating the national pushback while also working with local groups to have maximum impact. And this isn't about these blackouts or the economic pushbacks. We use the blackouts and the mass action as a way to gather momentum, to build that community of people who are ready for long-term change, of 1,000 different movements that are all coming together to build that community. Because community is the opposite of greed, and greed is the main issue that we are pushing back against. And if we all are saying, nope, this is the problem, nope, this is the problem, nope, this is the problem, well, we're never going to get on the same page, are we? That's where we've got to stop and say greed is the issue. All the corporations purposefully underpay us and overwork us so that all of us are barely scraping by. If we're barely scraping by, we are just one step away from financial ruin. And if the majority of people in a country are one step away from financial ruin, then they're going to be living in fear. And if they're living in fear, then it's going to be easy to divide when the billionaire media companies come in and tell us lies that have just enough truth in them that make us question reality. And that is 100% exactly what is going on. If you don't think that this country is full of people who are scared and easy to divide because they don't have enough money, then you're not paying attention. So how you help Twisted is the main goal is recognize that greed is the disease, reorganize your life around that idea, and recruit other people to come on in with us too. Because as we were talking about earlier, is we have to incite a culture shift. A culture shift doesn't happen right away. You have to do it over time. And the main way to start doing that is through shared language and shared acts. It's through building back our communities, putting the systems in place that we need to build security. And that's fine. I don't know if you're making fun of it there, broski, but hey, this is how it starts. So I would say that 60 days ago, we had 0 people. Now we've got 250,000. Now we've got Rosie O'Donnell talking about us. Now we've got Neil Young writing us into a song. So you can go ahead, doubt if you'd like. But you have to say the same thing for a very long time if you're going to get enough people on your side. And that's where we're fine with doing that. We're like literally 3 days into the first blackout. Well, that's fine. Just more propaganda that, your great leader has told you to hate that person. So you go ahead and hate that person. But, that's neither here nor there. What you were saying is you were kind of making fun of us. And I was saying that, no, we've pretty much got a very loud voice that is on our side. And that's totally fine. But this is actually how it happens, because corporations have absolutely taken over our society. They have shifted the culture away from communities, away from shared experiences to corporatism, to isolation. And if Broski doesn't see that, I don't know what to tell you. Because all of us work 40 hours a week. We get 2 days out of the week to spend time with our family and friends. Everybody knows that there's hardly enough time to get stuff done that you need during the week. Well, and the funny thing with propaganda is people don't know when they're listening to propaganda, right? So it's like they think they're hearing the truth, but to us, it's like so clear. It's like, no. But here's the thing. If they are believing this propaganda, well, then it's not going to be hard to fight fire with fire. We use our own propaganda to speak back with them and say, no, you've been lied to. The people up top, they need you more than we need them. It is so crazy that we give such fealty to these billionaires when billionaires didn't do much. They took hundreds of years of science, technology, and innovation that came before them, and they added one little thing. Elon Musk didn't invent the electric car. Hell, he didn't even start Tesla. He bought it and then added one little thing. How did he make all his money? Through PayPal. Basically, the internet was there and he added one little thing. It's built on the backs of other people. That's what this really is. And they've used their media companies to lie to us and say, nope, we did it on our own. Pull up by your bootstraps and you can do it too. But that's a lie. They were born into the right situation at the right time. And sure, I'm sure they put in the same work that any of us would. Because I know when I started my business, it's like, Hell yes, for what I am building, for what I know this can become, I will put in my all. And then it's like, on the flip hand, they use that same logic to blame all of us. Everybody feels personally responsible for their own economic situation. But most of the time, if you are in a neighborhood that does not have a lot of good jobs, well, that's probably because you're in an area that isn't very strong economically. And if you're in that area, well, maybe that's where you were born and where you went to school at. And so those oh no, it's fine, TikTok stars. If you love us so much, you can come back on in. It's not that we can't stop you. It's just that we're going to ignore you and move on. So I'm sure that you are hurting somewhere to do all this, but we love you, because if you really had your nice life to go back to and your family and your big house, then I don't know if you would care so much about hitting this button so much. No, not whining. That's where we are literally saying facts. If you don't see the massive transfer of wealth from the bottom and middle class to the upper 1% over the last 50 years, then I've got a bridge to sell you. Oh, definitely, Mel. But it's not a big deal, because when they leave and come back like that, it really just shows me that they just miss us. They're just looking for some loving. So, absolutely. But, and really what happened is, you can see it in front of you, right? Because what used to happen, we used to have 3 pillars that would protect us. We had the free market, we had actual politicians with spines, and we had the media. Each of those things were on all of our side. But right now, you can look around. Where did all the mom and pop shops go? Where are all the local stores? I think I've seen one local general store in my life, and not one that can compete with the corporations. Add to that the grocery stores, hardware stores, newspapers, community banks, doctors' offices. There's no local stuff anymore. And that's because they know that if they offered us bad services, that if they treated their employees poorly, that we could go shop down the street at Dave's business, at Mike's business. So what did they do first? They got rid of all those options, because they knew that the free market was one of the biggest protections that we had against their, screwball nature. And then after they got rid of all the mom and pop shops, we had nowhere else to go. And for a little while, it was all right, because they kind of had their happy face mask on and no, it's okay. Come on in, kids. We've got candy for you. And then as soon as the corporations got us in, they locked the gates, pulled off their mask, and said, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. Because what they did was that they bought all the politicians. They used each one of their lobbyists. How do they buy the political process? All 535 politicians. So go to the link in the bio. Did you go to blackoutthesystem.com? If you did, the very top thing at blackoutthesystems.com says, get your free stickers. Join the team, get your free stickers. So for every single one of our 535 politicians, there are 100 adult humans following them around, asking for things 24/7. So that is how they bought our political process, because the politicians also got greedy. What do you mean the 535? 435 in the House of Representatives and 100 in the Senate. So, and there are, I think, close to 6,000 lobbyists. So imagine if you had 100 people whose sole job was to follow you around all day and ask you for things, right? That would get pretty tough. And not only that, what if they're bribing you? So that is how they purchased our political process. So they got rid of all the mom and pop shops. There's no more local stores that can actually compete with the big corporations. And if they can't compete, then there's no competition, right? By definition. They use lobbyists to hijack our political process. They got completely rid of all the antitrust laws, and now the corporations control everything. And finally, they used all their money and power to buy the media. That's what really happened. Yeah, but when the people who are in charge of the laws are the ones accepting the bribe, they're not going to let it be a crime. And then they got rid of all of the media companies. It used to be, I think there was like 38 media companies in 1980. Now we're down to 5. So that is how we got here. And the way they keep us here is through their lies. Because the biggest lie that they tell us is that, well, that's where, depending on how bad you need it, Ron. I mean, go find somewhere local if you can, things like that. But yeah, if you're able to push through, we got, 36 more hours. So the biggest lie that they tell us is that they are the job creators. They are the innovators of our society. Without them, where would all the jobs come from? But that's such a lie. Because what do they actually bring to the table? What do billionaires and the ultra wealthy bring to the table when they start a company? Well, generally, they only bring 2 things: capital and organizational structure. We can find that in other places. We can find capital and organizational structure in other places. But what do we offer? What do we bring to the table? Well, when that billionaire, when that boss wants to grow and expand and make more money, when they want to keep fueling their greed, they have to go hire other human beings. So technically, they need us more than we need them. And the second lie that they tell us is that when somebody is underpaid, that when an individual is underpaid, that it is only that person's fault. That, hey, they should have negotiated better. Hey, they can go find another job somewhere else. Well, first of all, they can't go find another job somewhere else because over 85% of corporations on the S&P 500 have the same 3 top shareholders. So how are they supposed to go find another job? It's like this. It's like if I had a company, which I do, and I treated my employees terribly, but then I owned every company in town. So I don't care that I'm treating my employees terribly, because where are they going to go when they try to find a new job? To one of my companies, right? Well, that's exactly what is happening. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street own everything. And when you leave that one company that's screwing you to go to another, you find out that the same people that were running the old company are running this company. Well, that's how they keep all of us without security. They know if they overwork and underpay us, that we will never have the ability to improve our lives, to build that security that we need to take chances. And what this really does is it stifles innovation, because we could have 260 million people all thinking about the future, all trying to better our society. But instead, we've got 260 million people, and most of us are barely scraping by. Most of us aren't thinking about anything besides how we're going to pay rent the next month. And that's where, if a company is successful, its employees should be too. That's about it. And there are so many successful corporations in this country. Where are all the successful employees? That's the real thing. Because if there are this many successful corporations, if we are hearing about their record profits month after month, why aren't those employees successful? Because we already went over before, they needed us. In order to become a multinational company, you got to hire a crap load of other people to help you make that money. And if you are offering a job that does not pay enough so that the employee can buy food and housing, then you can't be afford to offer that job. Because when you offer a job that doesn't let someone buy food and housing, that is a net detriment to society. Because what you're doing is you're taking all the profits and making all of us pay for it. Because when you are only paying that employee barely enough to scrape by, but you're not paying them for healthcare costs, who covers that? All of us, through the public good, through public assistance. And when you're paying that employee $12, $13, $14 an hour, even though they're bringing in $40, $50, $60 an hour, well, guess what? They are putting more money in their pocket because they know the rest of us are going to pay for it. So we have to come together. We have to push back. The only way that we are going to win is by inciting a culture shift. Because this current administration, they are a symptom of the disease. The disease is greed. And we had to walk through many, many doors before we got to where we are today. 100%. Because right now, if we perceive that the boss gets rich, we're like, oh, that's awesome. What we should do is that we should base companies on how rich they make their employees. That should be the measure of success. I don't give a shit if you can make yourself rich. Anybody can do that. Lift up your whole community. That's what I want to see. Because literally, who cares if somebody else gets rich? And this is how you should know that the billionaires are stupid. Because the robber barons of old, it eventually hit into their addled brains that, oh, shoot, what's the point of all this money if I screw over everyone else and they all hate me? Let me go give a bunch of this away. Let me go try to change other people's lives. Greed is the disease, and everything else is just a symptom. It's the truth. And they have us fight over 1,000 other issues because they know that if we are pointing the fingers at each other, that if we are pointing the fingers left or right, that we will never get together and point one particular finger straight up at the top. Because it is not left versus right. It is up versus down. They are not the billionaires. They are the hoarders. Because they have enough for 1,000 generations. And they still take from people who can't afford enough food for one night. Because they are buying their 5th house while their employees can't even afford their 1st. So, but let's break it down, Vance. How do we actually get united? Small acts together, shared language, all of us using the same tactics to coordinate national pushback while we maximize local impact. That's what it is. It's all of us need to be understanding that, hey, the shared language, the free stickers, that will create a wave of truth. Because everyone feels this. And as soon as we break the isolation, as soon as we break the silence, we will break the fear. And that's when all of us recognize that we are going to win. As soon as we build a system to provide us security in its stead. So it's going to be small steps together, shared language, shared acts. And having a two-pronged approach. We cannot just talk about what is wrong. We have to also build what is right. Well, that's where if you are waiting, we are working with General Strike, so go sign that strike card. That's the goal. Remove all 535 politicians, but it's going to be almost impossible to do that because they are propped up by billionaires. They are propped up by billionaires because they've hijacked the political process. And if they've hijacked the political process, there's not much that we can do to fix it. Because I look at every single piece of legislation that was supposed to help the common person over the last 30 years, and whether it is Glass-Steagall, the Consumer Financial Protection Act, the Affordable Care Act, we passed this legislation that helps regular Americans. And then after a couple years, it gets rolled back. All of its teeth get taken out. So unless we get out the billionaires who are controlling the political process, remember, $1 equals 1 vote in our country right now, because electing people won't do anything if the system is rigged. Anybody that sees this system, it's the Affordable Care Act, broski. And man, if you don't like what we're saying, you don't have to be here. But Affordable Care Act literally has given millions of Americans access to healthcare and mental health care. And you only believe it's a joke because you listen to the media companies that constantly push down your throats. This won't work. This won't work. This won't work. So it's actually funny because that piece of legislation was put forward by Mitt Romney first. The way it happened was that the Democrats took Romney Care, which was the literal name of it, Romney Care, and made it their platform. Because like always, the dumbass Democrats try to appease the people on the far right rather than doing what they need to bring unity among the working class. So the legislation that you were talking about hating so much was actually a piece of Republican legislation that came from Mitt Romney that was only put in place to try to appease Republicans. And then if the individual mandate was allowed, then it absolutely was working. But what they did was they took out all the teeth so that it wouldn't work. I'm in a state of Maryland where the expanded Medicaid has helped millions of people. And it's so funny because if you look at it, all the places that expanded Medicaid were Democratic states. And all the places that rejected it were Republican. But then if you actually look at where all the cost and money goes, what's up, Brooke? When you actually look at where all the cost and money come from, it is the blue states subsidizing the red states. So, but anyway, left versus right is not a paradigm that we talk about here because that doesn't really help. Because no matter who's in charge, left or right, it is the rich always getting richer. It is the billionaires who are in charge. I don't know what you're talking about because nothing changed. I have very intimate knowledge of this. What you're spouting is untruths because all of the the system stayed the same. It's just more people received coverage. And you are literally railing against, oh, I don't like that more Americans got healthcare coverage. Well, golly, they are still getting healthcare coverage. It just is more expensive. So if you universally ask the people that are on Medicare, my Republican MAGA parents love their Medicare because they've been paying into it all the time. They're like, hey, this is great service that we get. Single payer healthcare. What's up, Silence? So, and that's where, there is going to be so much, everybody, that they'll throw at you where it's like, even if you did think that this is wrong and the issues, it's like, well, here we are sitting talking about the greed of the 1%. Don't you think if that $50 trillion that the 1% has taken from us over the last 50 years was actually being used for the good of the rest of humanity, that we'd be able to afford all this stuff, that we wouldn't be so freaked out about, oh, where's this coming from? We'd be like, oh, shoot, we got 50 trillion in our, collective bank accounts. Let's go ahead and fix this. And that's where, Scott, I appreciate your idea, but that's what they do is they lie to us about the media and tell us the lies there. They divide us over politics, and they use the media to entrench it all. And if you recognize all that, then what happens next? Then you lose hope, right? So that's their plan. That you, number one, don't see the truth. And then number two, if you do see the truth, that you're like, oh shit, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, in the past, people would look around and they wouldn't see much to do. That's why we have built a civic force. 1,000 movements that all know this is the moment to build a community. Because this is not about just talking about what is wrong. It is about building what we need. Because what is actually the issue is that we need a long-term strike. Because if greed is the disease, then what fuels their greed is our hard work. But how do we strike long-term if the majority of Americans don't even have a couple $1,000 emergency fund? And if the majority of us don't have even a couple $1,000, then how are we supposed to sustain the long-term strike that we need to actually make real change? Well, that's why this is going to win, one of the many reasons. Because we understand that it is not just about talking. It's not just talking about what is wrong. It is about building what is right. It's about building the security that we need. And Vance, what it is, it's going to be small wins on the local and county level that codify the changes we are looking for. There's not going to be any major changes on the state level. There's not going to be any major changes on the federal level for sure. I don't know what you're talking about, Scott, but they are not the elite. They are the hoarders. That is what we call them here, because that is all that they did, was they added one little thing to a long string of societal and technological innovations, and then they took more than their fair share, and that's why 208 million people do not have security. And the only way that we are able to push back, because they've hijacked the political process, they completely run the economy, they tie our jobs, our healthcare, and our retirement to their economy, and they own all the media companies. So the only way that we can actually push back is by all of us coming together, not even just for a boycott or a blackout, but to incite a culture shift. We are inciting that culture shift away from corporatism towards community, because what we built this society for was for the majority of us to have security. And right now, this system is not providing security to nowhere near the majority of us. So the plan is to build a system that does provide us that security. While we are building that system, we are recruiting others, we are reorganizing our life and our choices, and we are understanding that the whole goal is a sustained strike, sustained economic pushback. But the only way we can sustain our economic pushback is to build the systems that we need for sustenance. So we have got No Kings Blackout coming on October 18th. We have the next blackout, the System Blackout, coming on November 28th. And over this next 2 months, the phase two is all about you, y'all. Because we are putting together messaging, we are putting together posters and videos and all this kind of information that you can take to go spread this message. Because what I said earlier, that's all that it takes. It's every single person talking to one other person a week. That's it. The shopping doesn't really matter because that's not where they derive their money from. It's a portion of it, but it's our hard work that fuels their greed. The majority of business made is business to business stuff. And we can stop shopping as much as we want, but that would never stop a business to business transaction, which in majority of cases is their largest revenue. So it's our hard work that is the most important. It really is not spending, because spending is important basically to like the government. But yeah, Vance, it's you hurt production, you hurt the bottom line. That's what it really needs. And then as soon as that happens, they're number one, they're going to go, they're going to get their $1 million accounting companies to see, well, how long can the average American last? We need to do this strike for this long. And they're just going to do a spending analysis. All right. Does it cost us more to not deal with this strike? Does it cost us more to hire people? And all we have to do is make it cost them more. That's literally it. When people are like, oh, it'll never change. There's this or that. No. I am a business owner. The thing that would be the scariest would be all of my employees coming together and being like, hey, we demand this. Now, I've built a very wonderful work environment to try to make it, so that everyone is happy. But that is what needs to happen. We all collectively need to walk into the boss's office at the same time. So that's very different, Denise. So I am all with you on that. I would really call that more civil disobedience, where you, number one, had an entire town on the same page. Nobody was crossing that picket line. Good luck seeing that anywhere in America right now. I think literally what we're trying to do is build up a core group of people in an area across the nation that are ready to do what you were just describing. But I believe that that's why we say a lot, our first steps have to be small steps together, because it's like we're all climbing this ladder, and maybe some people want to reach up 3 or 4 rungs, but hey, we got to walk up with everybody else, because everybody's been told to be so afraid of speaking out. Everyone's been told that if you stand up, you'll stand alone, that if you speak out, you'll get fired. So we have to show them the way. The Montgomery bus boycott is actually started the exact way that we were, is they showed proof of momentum first. The only way you heard about the Montgomery bus boycott was that they took so many pictures. Broski, I'm going to have to ask you to leave in a second here, because it's just, I don't know if you're having a rough day or something, but I am seeing a lot of anger and frustration coming out of you, because we would never even say the V word, let alone exercise it. Because number one, that's one of the stupidest things you can do. That's why I don't under a lot of the, defend from a tyrannical government type people, because I believe that a tank is going to, and planes are going to overcome anything at all. Yes, Denise, that's true, but it's also less effective. That's all. And we are asking everybody to stop shopping. And that's where the whole phrase is, no, I'm speaking literally, all of us walking into the boss's office at the same time. That's it. How can you not see that our current country is not a capitalistic democracy, that it is a corporatist oligarchy? And all I'm saying is, hey, there's 900 people that are running our country. There are 400 people that have over $5 trillion. There are 400 people that have as much money as 200 million Americans. And the funny thing is, it's not even an uprising. It is, if all of us speak out at once, we win. That's it. We say, hey, all these, we get 1,400 people. We say, hey, you all go, make your own society, do whatever over here. But we remove all the politicians, and we figure out, how we sort out the greed amongst the corporations. Well, that's why we have to have the system set up for sustained pressure. Because I guarantee if we had it set up that there was all the farmers were saying, all right, we're not selling our food. We are going to have it here. We're going to give it away to everybody. and everybody was like, all right, we're doing a 6-month strike, they would start caving. But no, it's not going to be easy. But we do not do things because they are easy. We do it because it's hard. We do it because it's right. We do it because I am not going to see my daughter's eyes in 10 years. And when she asked me, what did you do? I'm going to say everything that I could have. And I believe that there's enough Americans that feel the exact same way. I see it. I see the amount of people that are signing up. So I know that enough Americans feel the same way. We just need a way to fight back. This civic force that we are building, people will recognize, oh, it's not just one group, it's not just one movement, it is 1,000 movements coming together. Yeah, Brooke, we're gonna have to start like doing live reports if they take over Baltimore and Chicago. We do have to stop the flow of money, but we have to build ourselves security first, because right now money fuels their greed, but money also allows us to live. Money is resources. Money is housing, healthcare, and food. And we can't just not work, because then we don't have access to the money that is housing, healthcare, and food. But if we build the systems that we need for long-term sustained pushback, then we will win. But absolutely, that's what Blackout Fridays are all about. It is about everything I was talking about: shared language and shared acts. We talk about it with people. We all wear black every single Friday. We don't we don't spend any money on Fridays. And if you absolutely have to, you make sure it is a small local store. I know, wouldn't that kind of be funny with Scott in Congress, where it's like that was Xi's whole plan was to put an app in that. No, what it actually is that everybody's feeling the squeeze around the world. Right? In America, we have this corporate-run version of capitalism, and we are feeling the squeeze. In China, they have the state-run version of capitalism, and the normal Chinese person is also feeling the squeeze. So it's going to come from one of our two countries, most likely. It just depends on, where it comes first, which domino is first to fall. But as soon as one of those dominoes falls, I don't think we have any mods on here, and it's okay. We don't point fingers left or right, because that's not what this is about. There are no Republicans or Democrats here. We are all just frickin' Americans. Aren't you sick of like pointing fingers at people all the time, and like your brain just being like, oh, I don't like them because they're this? That's like, so as me being a Baltimorean fan, that's like if I wrote off or a Baltimore Ravens fan, it's like if I wrote off every single person from Pittsburgh. Oh, those dumbass Pittsburghians. No, I'm sure there are a couple Pittsburgh people that are very, aggressive against Baltimore. But am I going to let that color my perception of the entire city of Pittsburgh? No. So the fact that you come in and, point fingers like that is just kind of indicative that the billionaire-owned media has lied to you so much that you need to do that. Because every single time somebody points a finger at a fellow American, at a hard-working American, then a billionaire sits back and smiles. Because you're doing their job for them. You're playing right into their hand. I am packing the stickers that I was talking about earlier. So it's not that they control every viewpoint opposite of mine. They control both sides. You can literally go look it up. They're all owned by billionaires. And if the people that own all of our media and all of our narrative are the very small percentage of people the only minority that has that amount of power. So why are we letting literally 900 people